Hello there, mathematicians. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well. Okay, so today we are going to do an open-ended math problem. And it's going to be a pretty big question. And you're welcome to solve as much of it or as little of it as you would like. It's just kind of a fun question to get you thinking. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see the worksheet that we'll be using. And I'm going to go over some information with you. Okay, so let's see. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so here's what we're going to look at today. So here's the worksheet that you'll be getting in a PDF attached below this video. But here's the question. If you said the ABCs continuously for one whole day, how many times would you get through saying the whole alphabet? Okay, wow. Well, some things we have to consider. How would we solve this problem? Okay, so we're going to talk about that in just a moment. So if you said the ABCs continuously for one whole day, how many times would you get through saying the whole alphabet? So first off, I want you to just start by taking a wild guess. So just estimate your best guess for how many times you would say the ABCs in one whole day. Remember, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, and in one whole day, there are 24 hours. So you're probably going to have a pretty big number. If I were doing this guess, I would be guessing a pretty big number. But again, I have no idea what my guess would be because I don't know how fast I can say that. So we'll have to do some research there, won't we? So key questions. What questions do you need to ask and answer to help you solve this problem? I want you to brainstorm that on your own a little bit. I am going to walk through a couple different steps, but maybe pause this video now, and see if you can come up with some of your own questions before I go through and share my thinking, okay? So I'm going to read this again. What questions do you need to ask and answer to help you solve this problem? And steps to solve. What are the steps you will follow to solve this problem, okay? So why don't you pause the video now, boom, and write down some answers to these, and then I'll go over some of my thinking too. So pause. Okay, I'm going to keep going though, because I don't need to pause. Okay, so we're going to keep going. So here's another, this is what another part of the worksheet looks like. So this last sheet here, this is kind of your brainstorming, kind of thinking of the questions and thinking about the steps to solve. And now here's where we're actually going to gather some data and do some calculations. So here's the question again. If you said the ABCs continuously for one whole day, how many times would you get through saying the whole alphabet? Okay, so I'm going to read this part now. Gather data and calculations. Answer your key questions and follow your steps to put it all together. Okay, so now's the time for you to think about how to actually solve this problem. And then at the bottom it says solution. What is your best estimate for a solution to this problem? This says estimate again, but this could be a space for if you want to actually work through the problem. You could get your answer here. Now, some of you might be thinking, wow, that is a big problem. Remember how I said this is open-ended? That means you can solve for as much of this as you would like or as little as of this that you would like. Some of you might just want to figure out how many times you can say the ABCs just in 1 minute. That would probably be a great question for some of you. Some of you might just want to do, I don't want to do the whole day. That's a lot. I just want to figure out how many times I could say it in 1 hour or 2 hours or 6 hours or whatever. Or some of you might be excited about trying to figure out how many times you could actually say this in a 24-hour day, okay? Now, again, since it's open-ended, I'm saying you can do as little of this as you want and as much of this as you want. So some of you might want to even extend this further past a day. Maybe how many times you'd say it in 2 days, or a week, in 7 days in 1 week, or a month, 30 days, or a year. Wow, if you want to get really big with this, you could try that too. So now I'm going to go back to my page. Here are things to consider. So now's the time. I hope that you had some time to brainstorm on your sheet to think of some questions you're going to need to ask and think of some steps that you'll need to actually solve this. So here I go. I'm going to read through my little letter here. Things to consider for Thursday, May 7th, math around the house. Good. This is an open-ended math challenge, meaning that there is no exact answer. You will not all get the same answer, will you? And there are many ways to solve and share your thinking. Now is a good time to practice estimating and rounding numbers. You are welcome to solve for any amount of time, meaning that you can solve for how many times you can say the ABCs in 1 minute, all the way up to how many times you can say it in a 24-hour day. And some might like to try to solve for how many times in a week, month, or year. Wow. Practice using multiplication, which really just means adding repeatedly, however many times. Or perhaps you want to challenge yourself to use some division skills. How could you do that? It's up to you. The only requirement is to be curious and have fun working on this. That's the only requirement. Say the ABCs. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to just a couple little tips from me. Say the ABCs at a regular speed. Don't rush to say it as fast as you can, and also don't say it in super slow motion, right? You want to get like an average amount of time. You don't want to do this in super lightning speed because that's not accurate. That's not how you actually say it, all right? So make sure you're speaking at a regular speed, not super fast, not super slow, right? Okay. Number 2, time yourself in any of the following ways, okay? Or think of a different way to collect your information. So I'm just going to suggest 2 different ways to time yourself. Say the ABCs and time it. Then figure out how many times you could say it in 1 minute. So maybe you want to think about just timing yourself saying it once, using that information and seeing how many times that fits into 1 minute. Another way is say the ABCs for 1 whole minute and count how many times you can say it in that time at a normal speed, right? So maybe you want to just actually time yourself for 1 minute and see how many times you get through. I would say round that if you get to, I don't know, figure out a way to round that, or maybe some of you can figure out, oh, I did it 2.5 times at 1 minute, okay? That's gonna be kind of tricky. So I'll let you experiment with how you want to do that, okay? Here's another little tip. Perhaps consider rounding your answer to the nearest 10-second mark. So an example of this, if it takes you 13 seconds, round down to 10 seconds. If it takes you 17 seconds, round up to 20 seconds, okay? So that's something I would strongly suggest, rounding your answer, unless you want a bit more of a challenge. Then you can go exact. But to make this a little more comfortable on yourself, maybe round to the nearest 10-second mark. And then last thing to remember, how many minutes in an hour? 60 minutes. How many hours in a day? 24 hours. How many minutes in a day? You solve that on your own if you would like. Okay, so that's what we're working on. I hope that some of the things that you were writing down in these key questions and thinking about the steps to solve, I hope that I kind of explained that pretty clearly. And have fun with this. This is a big project. Do as much of it or as little of it as is comfortable for you. All right, friends. That's all from me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.